Dogs quietly watch the people around them every day, not just what we do, but how we move, how we react, and how we sound in ordinary moments. A change in tone, a sudden movement, a calm response to something unexpected. These small signals may seem insignificant to us, but to a dog, they reveal a lot about how safe someone feels. Over time, those signals slowly shape something very important: trust. And for many dogs, that trust quietly settles on just one person. But the person a dog trusts the most is not always the one who feeds them, trains them, or even the one who spends the most time with them. In many homes, a dog may live with several people. Each person may care for them in different ways. Someone might prepare their meals. Someone else might take them for walks. Another person might play with them the most. Yet, despite all of that, many dogs quietly place their deepest trust in just one person. And that choice often surprises people. So how do dogs actually decide who they trust? Why does that trust slowly settle on one person instead of another? For dogs, trust rarely appears in one big moment. It doesn't suddenly arrive after a single act of kindness or a single shared experience. Instead, it forms slowly, almost invisibly, through hundreds of small interactions that happen every day. Moments people rarely notice. The way someone reacts when something falls on the floor, the tone of their voice when they speak, the pace of their movements when they enter a room. Over time, dogs begin to notice patterns in these moments, patterns that tell them whether a person feels safe to be around. And once you begin to understand the signals dogs are paying attention to, something interesting becomes clearer. The person a dog trusts the most is rarely chosen by chance. Instead, that trust gradually grows around certain emotional patterns that feel stable and safe. And there are a few signals dogs pay attention to again and again when deciding who they trust. One of the most important of those patterns is something dogs recognize very quickly: emotional predictability. Dogs feel safest around people whose reactions are easy to understand. Some people move quickly, speak loudly, or react strongly when something unexpected happens. A sudden noise might cause them to shout. A mistake might cause frustration. Their reactions change quickly depending on what is happening around them. Other people move more calmly. Their voices stay steady. Their reactions remain similar even when small surprises occur. To humans, this difference might feel subtle, but to a dog, it changes everything. Dogs constantly read emotional signals in the environment. They pay attention to posture, tone, movement, and the rhythm of everyday behavior. When someone behaves in calm, predictable ways, the dog learns something important. They learn that being near this person does not require constant alertness. The environment feels stable. The dog's body does not need to stay tense. Their breathing slows, their muscles relax, and little by little, that sense of emotional safety begins to settle in. Over time, this calm predictability becomes one of the earliest foundations of trust.
Because trust for a dog often begins with the simple question: do I need to stay ready for something unpredictable? When the answer consistently becomes no, the dog begins to feel safe. But emotional predictability alone doesn't fully explain why a dog eventually trusts one person more than everyone else. Dogs are also paying attention to another signal many people rarely think about. One of the signals dogs pay close attention to is how people respond to their boundaries. Dogs communicate comfort and discomfort constantly, but their signals are often quiet. A slight step backward, turning their head away, pausing before approaching, looking briefly at a person, and then looking away. To another dog, these signals are very clear, but humans often miss them.
When people interact with dogs, their reactions tend to fall into two different patterns. Some people immediately move toward the dog. They call the dog over, reach out to pet them, or encourage interaction right away. Other people do something different. They simply remain present. They allow the dog to approach on its own. To a dog, this difference carries meaning. When someone allows space, the dog learns that their signals are being respected. They learn that they are not being pressured into interaction. And that sense of choice changes how safe a person feels. Trust tends to grow much faster in environments where a dog feels it has control over distance and interaction. When a dog can approach when it feels comfortable and step away without being stopped, the relationship begins to feel balanced. The dog doesn't feel pushed. It doesn't feel cornered. Instead, It learns that this person understands something important about how the dog communicates. And that quiet understanding becomes another layer in the foundation of trust. Because trust rarely grows where a dog feels pressure. It grows where a dog feels understood. Over time, dogs begin to notice which people consistently allow them that space. They learn who respects their signals and who tends to overlook them. And the people who quietly respect those boundaries often become the ones dogs begin to trust more deeply. But there is another signal dogs rely on even more strongly than calm behavior or personal space. Emotional reassurance. Dogs constantly observe how people react to uncertain situations. Imagine a sudden noise somewhere in the house. A door slams unexpectedly. Something falls from a table. The dog becomes alert. Its ears lift. Its body tightens slightly. But before reacting, many dogs glance towards someone nearby. Not for instruction, but for emotional guidance. They are checking the emotional tone of the situation. If the person nearby reacts with tension, frustration, or alarm, the dog may remain uneasy. But if that person stays calm, something interesting often happens.
The dog begins to relax. Their body softens again. Because the dog has learned that this person's reaction often reflects whether the situation is truly safe. Over time, dogs begin to recognize which person consistently provides that quiet reassurance. Not through commands, not through control, but through emotional stability. That person becomes a kind of reference point. When something feels uncertain, the dog looks toward them.
And when that calm reassurance appears again and again across many different situations, trust begins to deepen. Because to a dog, the person who helps regulate uncertainty becomes incredibly important. But trust doesn't only grow during surprising or stressful moments. In fact, some of the strongest trust forms during the most ordinary parts of everyday life. Many dogs build their deepest trust through the quiet routines that shape everyday life. Walking through the same streets each day, resting in the same room during the evening, hearing familiar footsteps move through the house. These moments may seem ordinary to us. They rarely feel important enough to remember, but to a dog, repetition carries meaning. Dogs experience the world through patterns. They learn the sound of certain footsteps in the hallway, the way a chair moves when someone sits down, the rhythm of a familiar voice in the evening. And slowly, these small patterns begin to feel safe. Over time, these repeated experiences slowly form familiarity, and familiarity, for many dogs, becomes comfort. When a dog repeatedly shares calm moments with the same person, walking together, sitting quietly nearby, moving through the same rhythm of the day, that person begins to feel like a stable part of the dog's world. Not because of a single dramatic event, but because of hundreds of small moments that all felt safe. This steady presence sends a powerful message to the dog's nervous system. Nothing unexpected is happening. Nothing needs to be guarded against. The environment feels stable. And when stability appears again and again around the same person, trust naturally begins to settle there. For dogs, trust rarely forms through dramatic events. It doesn't usually come from one big moment of rescue or protection. Instead, it grows quietly through small experiences repeated over time. A predictable reaction, a calm voice, a familiar routine, a person whose presence consistently feels steady. Little by little, these experiences shape how a dog feels about the people around them. Eventually, the dog begins to rely more on the person whose presence feels the most emotionally safe. And when that deep trust forms, something interesting often begins to happen. The person the dog trusts most gradually becomes the one they look toward when something feels uncertain, the one they follow more often from room to room, the one they rest closest to when the house grows quiet, and very often, the one they eventually choose above everyone else. A dog may live in a home filled with many people. Each person may care for them in different ways, but in the dog's mind, one person often begins to feel different, the one whose reactions are easiest to understand, the one whose presence feels calm and familiar, the one who quietly became the safest place in their world. And over time, that quiet sense of trust becomes the foundation of something deeper. Not just attention, not just routine, but a bond built from hundreds of moments where the dog learned that being near this person simply feels safe.